Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom from under the dome.
Yes. Hope everyone is having a restful and peaceful Shabbat today.
We were on the fence of whether to record or to go to sleep.
Yes.
And so we are recording. We might do both. I don't know. We might fall asleep while we're doing
Depends on how long our youngest takes his nap. But yeah.
That's so good. I mean, this is Sabbath. This is,
What a blessing.
a blessing from Yah given to, man, Sabbath to man, not man for the Sabbath.
This is
as an establishment forever.
Yeah.
A Torah forever. It's amazing. And we get to enjoy it. At first it was hard, right?
Yeah,
it was hard doing Sabbath, and we wanted to fight.
It was a burden. It was a burden.
We wanted to fight against it. It was because of our own flesh.
Yeah.
That's what Romans says, right? The flesh is enmity against Yahuwah, enmity against his law, and it can't be subject to it. Neither, what does it say? Can't be subject to it. Can't be subject to his law.
We'll go with that.
I feel like I want to look at that now. I don't know. It just came to my mind.
Yeah.
Let's just read it real quick.
There's a reason. There's a reason for that.
Romans.
Well, this is our fourth year honoring the Sabbath, keeping the Sabbath. Is that right? Fourth year?
Since 2018.
Oh gosh. Yeah, 2018. Wow.
So this is 4 years. Well, it's over 4 years.
Yeah, okay.
We started keeping it in spring 2018.
Yeah.
While we were building the house.
Yeah. That was the one of the first ways that I think y'all kind of woke you up within the Torah, within Scripture about keeping His commands. That was the first command and first appointed time.
Yeah.
That you felt convicted to keep, and it was.
Well, I think anyone, all Christians, everyone, we should at least agree to keep the 10 Commandments.
Yeah. We should agree to keep all of them.
Exactly, but I mean, at least most Christians would agree that we should keep 10 commandments. So we should at least investigate the 4th commandment.
Yeah.
Find out why that you do worship on Sunday.
Yeah.
Because when you do an investigation, you'll find out the Catholic Church.
That's a good point.
Rome had changed the times.
Yeah, if you think that the Sunday is the Sabbath, then look into it.
Yeah, look into
the history of Sabbath Sunday.
Yeah.
And see if and see where the Ruach leads you.
Yeah, and in truth, like if you really believe the Sabbath is on Sunday, then treat it as a Sabbath. Treat it according to the way Scripture tells you to treat it. Doing no work, keeping a holy convocation, holy gathering for Him, doing no servile work. It is a set apart day, a sign between you and Him that you know Him, that you are His people. And I mean, my goodness, if you believe that we should keep the 10 Commandments, then you obviously believe that we are still subject to the Old Covenant, because that is the Old Covenant. And by the way, what 10 Commandments do you keep? Do you keep the first 10 that were broken by Moses when he smashed them down, when he came down with the golden calf, saw the people worshiping the golden calf? He smashed them, and then he had to go back up and get more. Yeah. And he came back up, and that second set, the very same chapter talks about keeping Passover and keeping all the feast days.
Right. So
if we really believe we should keep the 10, then we have to believe in the feasts. Yeah. The first set, the same chapter, he makes an altar and does sacrifices. In the same chapter as, this is Exodus 20 and Exodus 33, I think, or 31, 32, 33, something like that. But in the same chapter of the 10 Commandments, he's doing an altar and doing a sacrifice. So how can we pick and choose, we should believe this, but negate anything written in Deuteronomy, Numbers, Leviticus, and Exodus?
Right.
Yeah,
you either believe it all.
Yeah.
Or you believe none.
So this always goes back to Torah because of Psalm 1. It is truly the meditation of our hearts. We meditate it day and night, and we're not saying that in a bragging way.
But our delight is in it.
Yeah, our delight is in the Torah. And I'm not saying that in a bragging way at all. We're saying that in a testifying way because it's absolutely incredible, and we want everyone to see it. All our Christian friends that we grew up with, we desire for them to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, what I was going to read was Romans 8:7. Because the carnal mind is enmity against Elohim, for it is not subject to the Torah of Elohim, neither indeed can be. So the carnal mind cannot be subject to His law, to His Torah. Only the Spirit can be subject. Right. Just going back a few verses before Romans 8:5. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. So obviously,
Shalom.
yeah, shalom, yeah. And, you can twist this. If you start in Romans 7 and go to Romans 8, you can twist Paul's words just as Peter, Second Peter warned against. But anyways, nonetheless, it says the carnal mind cannot be subject to Yahuwah's law. So what do we want to be? Do we want to be carnal minded or spiritually minded?
Yeah.
So that's why we keep Sabbath, because it's spiritual.
Yeah.
It's from Elohim.
That's right.
It is his days. And guess what? Elohim is a spirit. That's another verse I think Paul wrote. All right. Back to...
So we are in...
the Targum, Torah, chapter 9?
Bere'shith.
Bere'shith,
Genesis.
yes. Let me go ahead.
Yeah, let's begin.
Let's begin. And Yahuwah blessed Noach and his sons, and said to them, spread forth and multiply, and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and on every fowl of the heavens, of all that the earth swarmeth forth, and all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing which liveth to you shall be food for you, shall be for food. As the green herb have I given to you the whole. But flesh, which is torn of the living beast, what time the life is in it, or that torn from a slaughtered animal, before all the breath has gone forth, you shall not eat. So you want to pause? And talk about this?
Yeah, let's pause there because I want you to go back to that verse 3 in chapter 9 that says, every creeping creature that lives is food for you.
Yeah.
I have given you all, but I don't, what did yours, can you reread that?
Every moving thing which liveth to you shall be for food. As the green herb have I given to you the whole. So I guess before it was, the herbs.
Right.
And we read in the book of Adam and Eve, and they ate nothing but the fruit that grew from trees.
Yeah.
That's all they ate was fruit. But it's interesting. Okay, so
I'm stuck here.
well, I would say that a lot of people would use this verse to say, oh, see, we can eat anything.
We can eat pork. We can eat shellfish.
We can eat everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so two things. If you believe that, then, just a few chapters before this, Noah had clean and unclean animals enter the ark. Mm-hmm. So obviously there was a difference between clean and unclean before the ark.
Yeah, there's a distinction.
And so if you believe that, okay, now everything's clean after the ark, then you would have to believe that, 500 years later when the Torah is given, or more than that, I guess it's probably more closer to 800 years after this. But when the Torah is given, all of a sudden food is unclean again, certain foods. Mm-hmm. And then if you are these people who believe that everything is clean to us to eat now, then you believe that after Yeshua comes, everything's clean again. Mm-hmm. So to really believe that and to think that, okay, see, it's saying that food is clean for you to eat, then you have to be saying that Yahuwah changes his mind.
Right. That
before Noah, things are unclean and things are clean. And then after Noah, after the flood, well, everything's clean. And then all of a sudden on Mount Sinai, no, some things aren't clean. And then all of a sudden when Yeshua comes, everything's clean. So, and then, Isaiah 66 talks about the people in the end who eat the abomination of swine's flesh,
right,
and the mouse.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
So that, if you read Isaiah, in the very end of Isaiah, this is a millennial reign verse. So all of a sudden things are unclean again. So you have to believe that thing, it's this, you have to believe that Yahuwah is changing his mind. Second of all, just another point.
Yeah, please.
Just another point. Sorry to talk too much, but the second point, the clean animals, he brought, 7. He brought 7 of clean animals. Yeah. So you had, depending on how you read it, and how I read it is he had 3 pairs. So he had 3 pairs of animals. So 3 pairs of sheep. And then 1 extra. Why is there 1 extra? Well, that's for sacrifice. Same thing with cow, for anything that's clean, that divides the hoof and chews the cud. He brought 7s. This is in the regular scriptures, not in the Targum. Mm-hmm. And when we were kids, you see we always were
two.
taught 2 by 2, but
Yeah.
that's not what it says. It's sevens, and then 2 of the unclean. So if right here Yahuwah is saying you can eat anything you want, and Noah all of a sudden the first day he says this has a craving for bacon, then all of a sudden pigs are extinct because he only brought 2. So one he would have to kill to eat it, and then pigs don't exist anymore because they can't procreate.
Yeah.
So this clearly.
Wow, that's
is
a
not,
really good connection, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is clearly not what Yahuwah is saying.
Is saying, yeah.
You know, we can twist it and say, oh, yeah,
You
see,
have to
all
read
things
it in
are clean.
context, though, with the whole book of Genesis. Yes.
And if you read, the more you read, and I'm not just saying like, the more extra biblical text you read, you see that these laws were forever. They were from the beginning and forever. Clean and unclean animals. Yeah. Why did Yah create unclean animals? Well, there's reasons for everything. Just because...
Well, unclean animals, think about pigs, and these bottom feeders of the ocean.
Exactly.
They are there to clean up. They are there to... There's a lot of things that they do for Yah's creation.
Yeah,
they take care. They're kind of the cleaner uppers.
Yeah. If you believe we can eat everything, then you would have to believe you can eat an electric eel.
Or a horse.
Or a horse, or a dog, or a cat. Man, your cats and dogs are not safe in your house. And... You would have to believe that all things... Is this talking about humans here? Can you eat humans? Does it say all things? It says all things. All flesh.
Yeah.
So is it talking about humans? Is cannibalism okay? Of course Yah is not saying that.
Yeah.
So we must read it in context and read actually what he is saying. Because if Noah... We know he drank some wine here in a little bit.
Yeah.
So maybe he wanted a big, pork butt roast. And if he did, then the pig is no longer, it's extinct.
Yeah.
It shouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
But it is here because he didn't eat it. He's sending it on its way. And that
to go do
and those
what
little
it needed to do.
Pigs made piglets, and that's what happened. He didn't want any pigs here. Another really amazing thing is not to eat beast torn.
Yeah.
Living beast torn. Deborah and I have actually been guilty of this recently. Not recently, but we actually had some beef that an animal wasn't slaughtered in the proper way.
Yeah.
And we're beginning to see that a lot of the animals that we eat, even, from going to the grocery store, are not slaughtered in the proper way. And we're on the brink of having to make some major life changes with our meat choices.
Right.
Which is one reason we're raising sheep and chickens, and we want to get some cows.
Yeah.
So just more and more.
That's
things.
right.
But
just more separating ourselves from, what we think is, what we have thought is correct, still coming, we will not figure all of this out in this lifetime. And I think that's what's amazing is just the pursuit of holiness. And as Yah just refines us in one area, he'll expose another area where we need refinement, or another area where, we have ignorantly, partaken in things that we shouldn't have, or ignorantly, eaten something we shouldn't have, or, not thought about, some of these aspects of how animals are killed or in what manner, and, or even in the same, if they're slaughtered on the same table as a pig, and it's just like, there are a lot of things that I just praise be to him for, and it's a hard, and it's does not mean that it's going to be an easy path to go either, because it's so convenient to go and just, get meat in the store, even if you think it's, grass fed and organic and, properly raised. Well, how is it, is it being properly slaughtered? Is it being properly harvested? So. Yeah,
this world has made sin very convenient.
It's made, and it's been hidden so easily.
Yeah.
It's been hidden, and we don't even realize some of our sins and some of the ways that we have neglected the instruction. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's okay. I'm just saying, Yah understands we are completely
he winks at our ignorance.
Yeah, but we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah, but we are seeking the ancient path. We are reading, seeking, and this is what we are to do. This is
a great example, I think, of the ancient path, that is found within the Torah and is commanded, but it's not something that you got to translate it to the very basic thing of what you put on your plate.
Yeah.
And what it is, and that you're putting on your plate, and how it got there. So, anyways,
real quick on the first verses before we move on.
Yeah.
It says, and Yahuwah blessed Noach and his sons and said to them, spread forth and multiply and replenish the earth. So replenish would mean to repopulate, right? The earth. This is the same word used in Genesis to replenish, go and replenish the earth, said to Adam and Eve.
Oh, yeah.
I think said to Adam and Eve. So it leaves kind of a question to, well, did something happen? Was there a cataclysm that knocked out maybe a population that was already here?
Yeah.
Either people, because you get kind of two creation accounts in Genesis. The man and woman were created, and then all of a sudden he goes into that Adam was created and Eve was created. So is there a possibility that human beings were created and wiped out because of our iniquity, because of angels, whatever?
Yeah.
Wiped out, and then Adam and Eve are said to replenish the earth. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
I don't really. I've ventured into it a little bit, but not that much to think about a pre-Adamic age. So, but it is a theory that a lot of people have. ...
Question mark.
Question mark.
Come back
yes.
to it, study it later.
Yes, I would love to study that out. And then also to the dread. It says, "And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, of every fowl and fish and everything." So everything's going to fear you now. And we know beforehand the animals were speaking to Adam.
They coexisted, right?
Yeah, coexist. They could talk to him. They could, there was no fear. An animal did not fear you.
Or you them. Like you didn't fear an animal. I mean, even though the animals were put under us, like think about it today. Like I'm not going to go walk up to the bear doesn't really fear me. It probably does, but in reality, my reality, I fear the bear.
Yeah. I think it's probably scared of you, and that's what you get that. What book is that? It's not the Book of Adam and Eve, but it's the Testament of Adam. When Adam.
Oh yeah.
When Seth is going back, he's on his deathbed.
Yes.
And he's asking. Seth is like, "What do you, Adam? What can I get you?" And he's like, "Go to the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Go to the doors, and just ask, get some frankincense or something, just so I can smell it one more time before I die." Yeah. Like all he wanted to do was get back to that garden. If you read the Book of Adam and Eve and any of these older texts about the life of Adam and Eve, all they were trying to do from the very beginning, after they were kicked out of the garden, was to get back. Yeah. I mean, they were literally dying, and the word of Elohim kept raising them and resurrecting them, so many times, because they were literally dying because they wanted so much to just get back to the garden. But anyways, he wanted Seth to go get him something, medicine or something from the garden, right? Some sort of leaf, or I can't remember, but on his path, he's going there with with Eve,
yeah.
And they're going back to the garden, and is it a serpent? I think it's like snake or something.
An animal
gets a hold of Seth and is trying to kill him, and he basically rebukes it and says, "Are you not fearful of the image of Elohim?
Yeah.
Like, do you not fear me? I am the image of Elohim." You know, and so this kind of like the serpent had lost that relationship with man.
Yeah.
And so you see here after Noah, all the animals now have lost that relationship with man.
Yeah.
This is interesting to me. Like, where does the dog come in here? Because we have...
Yeah, we do, yeah.
I don't know. It's just interesting. Like, a dog is very, man's best friend, right? We have 2 dogs outside that are not scared of us at all.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're a little scared of us. We beat them on occasion. Kindly.
We discipline them.
We discipline them, yes.
We don't beat them.
That's just a joke.
I know.
All right. We don't really beat our dogs, just for anyone who thinks that I'm serious.
I know.
All right. Let's keep reading.
What verse are you
in? Verse 4.
Okay.
"But the blood of your lives I will require of every animal which hath killed a man. I will require that it be put to death on his account. And from the hand of the human being, from the hand of the man who hath shed the blood of his brother, will I require the life of a man. Whoso sheddeth the blood of man, the judges by witnesses shall condemn him unto death. But he who sheddeth it without witnesses, Yahuwah of the world, will bring punishment on him in the day of the great judgment, because in the image of Yahuwah he made man."
Wow.
Pause.
You
want to say anything?
No, I don't actually.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm already ahead of my thoughts.
Okay. And you spread yourselves abroad. Is that where I'm at?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you spread yourselves abroad and multiply. Bring forth in the earth and increase in it. And Yahuwah spake to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, Behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your children after you, and with every living soul that is with you, of birds and of cattle, and of every beast of the earth that is with you, of all that go forth from the ark, of every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you, and will not again cause all flesh to perish by the waters of the flood, and there shall not again be a flood to destroy the earth. And Yahuwah said...
And I love this because it's like, I think we fixate so much on this covenant, because it's we have such an obvious, well, we'll get to it, sign.
Yeah,
right,
an
that
obvious
complements
sign.
the
Yeah, the
covenant.
rainbow, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't ever
question
think that this covenant is done away with.
Yeah.
This is an older covenant
Or that
than the
there's
old
one that's been
covenant.
replaced. Yeah,
This is older than the old. So why do we think this isn't done away with?
Right.
So I mean, this one's never on the chopping block.
Well, and it's
because there's a rainbow still.
right, and it's written for, as he said, for you and your seed, and for generations to come. And I have Jubilees pulled up as well, just because I think it goes hand in hand with Genesis 9. But it says, I've made this covenant with you forever.
It's Jubilee 6.
Jubilee 6, yeah. Well, it just says the same thing. It just says on this account, he spoke to you that you should cut a covenant with the children of Yasharel in this month upon the mountain with an oath, and that you should sprinkle blood upon them because of all the words of the covenant which Yahuwah made with them forever. And right before that, he cut a covenant before Yahuwah Elohim forever throughout all the generations of the earth in this month.
This is the third month, the new moon of the third month.
Yeah, the new moon of the third month when they came out of the ark and they built the altar. But, and you wrote Exodus here, so I guess there's something in Exodus about this as well. But I just, my point was just, we don't question this covenant. We don't question the legitimacy or any kind of replacement of it, or, it's just, and there's a reason. It's interesting that he gave this sign that's coming up, as the sign of this covenant,
The reason I wrote Exodus is because it says, on this account, he spoke to you that you should cut a covenant with the children of Yisrael in this month upon the mountain with an oath. Okay. So it's in this month that the commandments were given on Mount Sinai.
Oh, okay.
So it is in the third month. I mean, you have
So in the same third month.
Yeah.
Yahuwah gave the...
Yeah, this is very special. This is what, he gave the same as Pentecost and Shavuot.
Yeah.
Was all, Mount Sinai, the, revealing again of the Ruach HaKodesh.
Right.
There's a lot, all in this month, all in the third month. Of course, we're in almost the seventh month.
Right.
At this point when we're recording right here. But yeah, the third month is amazing. And it's when all your garden and everything's coming in and you get this harvest and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And how many rainbows have we seen this year? Yeah. So many rainbows. I mean, it's just we saw one yesterday.
Yeah, and it hadn't rained.
Yeah, it didn't even rain. Yeah, we just looked up and there was one in the sky. We just immediately started crying because we were in a bad place, just kind of
I feel
sad.
He's been giving us these rainbows. Well, let's get to the rainbow and then we can talk maybe a little bit more about it. But,
okay. You want me to keep reading?
Yeah.
Verse 11, and Yahuwah said, this is the sign of the covenant which I established between my word and between you and every living soul that is with you until the generation of the world. Just real quick, if you haven't read the Targums, the word of Yahuwah is replaced. Most of your Torah,
removed.
In the Torah, it's removed over 200 times just in the Torah. All your Masoretic texts and, anything that most of our translations are derived from now.
And why is that important?
Well, the Word, you read John, the Word became flesh. The Word literally is Yahushua. He is the Word of Elohim.
So they removed the potential of there being a Messiah.
Yeah, they didn't want you to know that he was always here.
Yeah.
And the more you read the Torah, especially in the Targum, you realize that, wow, this Word... They actually saw him. They actually knew who he was. He was there. That he was actually someone they kind of recognized. Mm-hmm. And I think it's in the Torah. they were making idols from the word. They were actually sculpting things that looked like the word and things so they could worship the word of Elohim.
Right.
And man, that sounds like now. We were somewhere and there was crucifixes everywhere. I'm not saying that
It was
we
in the
shouldn't.
emergency room.
Yeah, we shouldn't acknowledge. I'm not saying we shouldn't acknowledge what Yeshua did for us and the atonement Yahuwah provided, but these are idols. Unfortunately, they're idols because do we truly know what happened and what was going on? I think the waters are so muddied, and the reason Yah gave us not to make an idol unto him of things on earth or things above or below, right? Is because he didn't want the waters to be muddied.
Yeah.
Because when you start thinking that, I don't really know where I'm going. Maybe I'm talking too much.
No, you're not.
But anyways, it's just like, they were, worshiping the word. He didn't want us to be worshiping the word in the wrong way, like making strange fire, right?
Right.
Offering strange fire. That's where people were killed for offering sacrifices that they thought were right, but Yahuwah's like, that's not what I asked for. And that's such a big deal because when you do that, you open your heart up to paganism and all these strange worship that Yahuwah never commanded. Christmas, Easter, all these things. Yahuwah never commanded them. And, they've been doing it since the beginning.
Yeah.
But anyways, so over 200 times in the Torah, my word, the word of Yahweh is revealed. It's in there.
Yeah.
And for this, anyone who would want to say Torah is a, I guess, Jewish tradition, it's kind of funny because why would they have my word in here? If this really is Jewish tradition and Pharisee, rhetoric, yeah. If it really is from the rabbis and stuff who do not believe in the Messiah, why in the world would they have so many things that point to the Messiah? This is why it's, in my opinion, been hidden. But I'll keep going. Okay.
Yeah.
Verse 12. I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of the covenant between my word and the earth.
Okay. I didn't realize that you were right there.
Yeah.
So let me go back then, because this is a point in Jubilee 6 right before the sign that he gave being the bow, where he's talking about the specific covenant. And I think you read it in verses 11 and 12, but he goes on to say in Jubilee 6, after he says, and do you command the children of Israel to eat no blood, so that their names and their seed may be before Yahuwah Eloheinu continually. So it's interesting because we think about this covenant being just about he won't flood the whole earth again.
Yeah, but there's more to it.
Yeah, there's more to this covenant around how we are to eat these things that he has given us to eat. And there's right after this verse, he also says, and I just want to make this point because this is amazing. So he says, eat no blood. And so that means so that their names and their seed and their children and their children's children and the generations, that would be us, because the seed continues on, right? So may be before Yahuwah Eloheinu continually. And for this Torah, there is no limit of days, for it is forever. They shall observe it throughout their generations, so they may continue supplicating on your behalf with blood before the altar. Every day and at the time of morning and evening, they shall seek forgiveness on your behalf perpetually before Yahuwah, that they may guard it and not be rooted out. So the instruction of Yah was given well before Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
His Torah has been given from the very beginning, and it is forever. All of these, his instructions began at the very beginning, with Adam, with Eve, with their family, with Noah, and we are to observe all of these instructions and to guard all of these instructions throughout the generations to come. And obviously they've been lost over the generations. So many of these things have been lost. But
as a perpetual covenant.
But as a perpetual covenant, yes.
It's the
and
same,
to seek
the same
forgiveness.
covenants.
Yeah.
The same covenants on Mount Sinai. I mean, there is, He reintroduces it
Yeah.
and says, hey, don't eat anything with blood.
Yeah.
He reintroduces it again in Acts 15.
Yeah.
Don't eat anything with blood.
That's right.
You know?
And why? He says, why is this? To seek forgiveness. Seek forgiveness perpetually, continually.
Well, that's interesting too. It says sacrifices perpetually.
Yeah, the sacrifice is perpetually.
So there will be constant sacrifices.
Yeah.
And that's something that kind of comes up with Yeshua is like, okay, is he our final sacrifice? Are there still sacrifices going on?
Mm-hmm.
He is our high priest. Well, a priest has certain duties that he has to perform. Even a Melchizedek priest has certain duties they have to perform, making atonement for the people. Yeah. So is he doing sacrifices morning and night, just like it says?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
I think he is. But.
Yeah. Well, it's an important part. I think it complements the covenant. Anyways.
That's amazing. Well, something else that verse 12 says, this rainbow is a covenant between my word and the earth. So, we saw a rainbow yesterday. So that was a reminder of the covenant between Yahushua
yes.
and the earth, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. We've seen so many rainbows this year, and we've needed the remembrance.
Yes.
We have needed the constant reminder of that Yahweh is in control.
Yes.
And that his covenant lasts forever, and that he promises, because we have, been through, a time of testing that's really, I would say that has tested whether or not we believe that.
Could cause us to doubt.
Exactly. Whether or not we really believe that all this stuff is real, And by the way, this comes if you believe in the covenants, you believe in keeping Torah, you're going to get tested. It's already told you will. Yeah. Refined as gold. All right, I'll keep reading. Verse 13. And it shall be that when I spread forth my glorious cloud over the earth, the bow shall be seen in the daytime, while the sun is not sunk or hidden in a cloud.
Whoa.
That's not in there, is it?
No. Can you slow that down? Rewind. Read that again.
And it shall be that when I spread forth my glorious cloud over the earth, the bow shall be seen in the daytime, while the sun is not sunk or hidden in a cloud. So, this is obvious, whenever it rains.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the sun comes back up, you look towards where the storm is still, and you see a rainbow, usually. We've seen, how many have we seen this year? 20? At least 20 rainbows this year.
A lot of them have come in the last few months, too, I think.
Yeah, and we're kind of on a later year according to the moon.
And that's weird because we actually haven't had that much rain.
Yeah, it's been a kind of a drought.
To have received that many rainbows because you don't always see a rainbow after it rains. We don't.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting that we have seen, for the little amount of rain that we've received, we've almost seen a rainbow for every rainstorm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's amazing. And when, we see them every year, but this year in particular, there's been so many rainbows. And the first year we built, when we started building this house up here.
You saw it.
We saw it. And by the way, we need to do a testimony about all that we kind of, building our own house and getting out of debt and kind of getting out of the system.
Yeah.
Or trying to. We're still trying to.
Yeah.
But anyways, we saw so many rainbows that year too. And that year was a reminder to us about the covenant. It's like Yahweh's reminding, hey, I promised you, and I always promise you, it's always us that break the covenant. It's always us who leave the promises of Yah. Yah never leaves his promises. They're forever. Perpetual covenant from generation to generation for the stranger that sojourns with you and the homeborn. Yeah. This is a perpetual covenant. It never ends.
Say homeboy?
Homeborn. Oh. Yes, the homeboy too. That includes the homeboys. Isn't that what it says? That's in Exodus. The homeborn. I think it says homeborn, like the Israelite and the stranger sojourns with you.
I know what you meant.
But the homeboy too, they get to come too if they're grafted in.
Okay.
All right. So verse 14, and I will remember my covenant, which is between my word and between you and every living soul of all flesh, that there shall not be the waters of a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it to remember their everlasting covenant between the word of Yahuwah, and every living soul of all flesh that is upon the earth. And Yahuwah said to Noah, this is the sign of the covenant that I have covenanted between my word and between the word for all flesh that is upon the earth. Wow. I mean, just 3 times in a row, he says, this covenant is between my word and you.
Yeah.
My word and you.
And every living being of all flesh.
Yeah. My word and you. So every time
Yeah.
you see a rainbow, it's the promise of his word, Yahushua,
Yeah.
and us.
Right.
Which is, man, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. It's a reminder of atonement.
It is.
That I forgive you. I've atoned for you. I forgive you. Go and be fruitful. you know? Be fruitful unto all good works.
Well, and I think it's interesting where it says be fruitful, and just so happens when we hear that word, think about that, be fruitful. Okay, now go to Jubilee 6, verse 17. Right after, let me back up one verse 16. He set his bow in the cloud for a sign of the eternal covenant, that there should not again be a flood on the earth to destroy it all the days of the earth. For this reason, it is ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. I would assume heavenly means eternal too. The eternal tablets.
If it's written in heaven, there's a pretty good chance it's eternal.
And it probably means that'd be good to do it here too.
Yeah.
But that it's written on the heavenly tablets. That
in earth as in heaven? Is that what he meant?
Yeah, I think
May your will be done in earth as it in
heaven.
Wow, that's weird.
That they should celebrate the feast of Shavuot, the feast of Shavuot, the feast of the first fruits. So think about being fruitful.
Yeah.
Here. In this month, once a year, to renew the covenant every year. So we celebrate the feast to renew, meaning to remind ourselves maybe of that covenant that Yah gave us.
Yeah.
Wow. And this whole feast was celebrated in heaven from the day of creation till the days of Noah. 26 jubilees and 5 weeks of years. And Noah and his sons observed it for 7 jubilees and 1 week of years till the day of Noah's death. And from the day of Noah's death, his sons did away with it. They did away with it until the days of Abraham, and they ate blood. I'll pause there because I just think I want to continue, but I just want to say, like, I think that this is, it has meant so much to us as we have just continued to have a better understanding, not come to the full realization of Shavuot, but it has been a forgotten feast for us in the first couple years of celebrating the feast days. And just last year, not this
I think
past
it's been
Shavuot,
a forgotten feast for all people following the feast days, for a lot of people, because it's one of the least, like, I guess, that has the most instruction on, right?
Yeah, it has the least.
It's kind of a hidden
instruction.
We don't really know how to celebrate it the right way,
unless you have like a garden or you have something that you're growing. Maybe
it's kind of forgotten. Yeah,
it's kind of like
in our day and age.
Yeah, in our day it is. Yeah. So it's just, I think it's amazing that Yah gave us one of his feast days to remember this specific covenant, that he would no longer flood the earth, that we aren't to eat blood, that we are to remember the Torah that is forever, and we are to be fruitful and multiply. And he gave us a feast day that is basically the renewal of that covenant every year. Once a year, the remembrance of the covenant is to happen on the Feast of Shavuot.
Something really interesting. The bow is the sign, right?
Yeah.
Of this day. And you're talking about first fruits. This day, it means being fruitful.
Yes.
Which is interesting. His bow represents fruitfulness.
Yeah.
And the bow of the, gay and lesbian agenda.
Oh, yeah.
Is a different rainbow with 6 colors representing fruitlessness.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have fruit.
Yeah.
With 2 of the same sex.
Nope.
So
that's
it's
interesting.
like fruitlessness and then fruitfulness.
Wow.
With the bow. I don't know. Just something that just popped in my head. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And why would they use that?
Yeah.
Make up your own thing. Why you gotta steal something of Yah's? But of course, that's what the devil does, right? It's always a counterfeit.
Let me just continue on, because I think these verses I've shared, and as we have approached Shavuot, because I think we're all still learning and coming to a better understanding of our feast, of Yah's feast days, and our celebration of those days. But I just want to continue on and finish this part, because somebody may not have really ever heard this about Shavuot. So, as I said, Noah's sons did away with Shavuot. They did away with feast day. They did away with the covenant. Basically, they ate blood. Part of the covenant was don't eat the blood of the animals.
They ordered their steaks medium rare.
Yeah.
We used to.
I did.
Maybe not medium rare.
I never ordered it medium rare.
Medium, maybe.
But it was probably pink and.
Oh yeah, it had blood in it.
Yeah. I remember, sidebar, we went to, this was 2 years ago. It was our first night away since our youngest was born. Remember we went up to, we stayed on a sheep farm, is where we really kind of cultivated our love and our desire to raise sheep. And then it was
cultivated our love.
Well,
yes.
It created a desire in us to want to raise sheep, which was then confirmed on Passover the following year when we realized that the sheep, the meat, the lamb meat that we bought was, anyways, halal. Anyways, okay. But so we went to this tiny little restaurant and we ordered, I can't remember, you ordered a steak, I think. And this was right, again, we're in this process of learning and, understanding y'all's instructions better. And we know that we're not supposed to eat, the blood of an animal. And you order a steak. And I think you ordered it like medium or medium well. Probably medium well, I would say. But it came out mid to mid rare. And there was blood. And I remember us just looking at it and we're like, we can't eat this.
We can't do this.
But then we were also like, we didn't want to disappoint the
it was a really nice restaurant.
And
like,
we didn't want to send it back.
Yeah.
So we just didn't eat it. And we
No, we did send it back. I sent it back and they said they would cook it up. But it was a nice restaurant.
Cook it longer.
They don't really like when you do that at nice restaurants,
Well, you know that from being in the restaurant
yeah.
biz for 10 years.
So they cooked it longer and it came back and it was still mid-rare.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you press on a piece of meat and there is obvious, like the juices flow red, that's part of the blood. Yeah. Anyways, I remember thinking that was the first time just that application of Yah's instruction and it coming to because I mean, I think previously would have been like, it's okay. Like we wouldn't have thought so much about it, pre-Torah, but anyways. Okay, so Noah's sons did away with it. This is all part of Genesis 9. I think this is so important because Genesis 9 has, anyways, it just ties together. And I think we'll get there once we get to the soil being tilled and planting the vineyard and all that. So I'm just going to finish reading this and then we'll jump back to it. But Abraham observed it. And so did Isaac, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Jacob and his children observed it up to your days, and in your days the children of Yasharel forgot it until you celebrated it anew on this mountain. And do you command the children of Yasharel to observe this feast in all their generations for a commandment unto them. 1 day in the year and this month they shall celebrate the feast, for it is a feast of Shavuot and the feast of first fruits of the wheat harvest. This feast is twofold and of a double nature. According to that is what is written and engraven concerning it, celebrate it. For I have written it in the Sefer of the first Torah, in that which I have written for you, that you should celebrate it in its season 1 day in the year. And I explained to you its sacrifices that the children of Yasharel, Israel, should remember and celebrate it throughout their generations in this month, 1 day in every year. It's just like this continual repeating of, don't do away with it. Mm-hmm. It's for generation to generation. It's for you and your children. It's to be celebrated. Yeah. It's written on the heavenly tablets. And
we keep forgetting it.
We keep forgetting it. And so here we are again, 2022. And, praise Yah for waking up his remnant, waking up his children in the last days to come back to his Torah and to come back to his feast days. And, it's just Shavuot. I would say this year was the first year that we were just like, this is amazing. And we celebrated it in a different, based on the full moon, new moon calendar. But I would say it just felt like Yah blessed that. And I don't even know if we posted, I think we posted about our Passover, but the Shavuot, we truly had like a big harvest. We had a much bigger harvest, I feel like, when we celebrated Shavuot this year.
Yeah, we were able to, our whole meal was
everything that we had.
Yeah, we had grown here or harvested here.
Then and our chickens were ready to be harvested around Shavuot. They wouldn't have been had we celebrated it like a month earlier. Yeah. Like everything seemed to come in.
Up,
yeah, and it was amazing. But anyway, so I just wanted to read that.
That's amazing.
Okay, keep going.
All right, verse 17. And the sons of Noach who went forth from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. These are the 3 sons of Noah, and from them they were spread abroad to dwell in all the earth. And Noah began to be a man working in the earth. And he found a vine which the river had brought away from the Garden of Eden. And he planted in it a vineyard, and it flourished in a day. And its grapes became ripe, and he pressed them out. Whoa. Okay, so this is amazing. So this vine, I didn't even realize this. It came from the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So the wine that he drank, or that, the grapes.
Yeah.
From the Garden of Eden. He planted it in a vineyard, and it flourished in a day. Wow. So it grew forth in a day, and its grapes became ripe. Is this all in one day?
I guess.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, and then here, well, never mind.
I love the first part. And Noah became a man working in the earth.
Began to be a man.
Yeah, he's like, I'm working in the earth. I'm being manly. Mm-hmm.
A farmer.
He's true.
He's like the first farmer.
So, yeah, true husbandry for his property and for his land.
I mean, I know Adam had to till the ground and they had to, make their way on this earth. But, you kind of really see it come to fruition with Noah.
Well, I'm sure the ground was more fruitful then, too. Mm-hmm. I would imagine Adam was dealing with a really fruitful land. I mean, still thorns and thistles came up, but, Noah had probably nothing. Mm-hmm. Just imagine it just being a wasteland, after the floods, just a bunch of mud and, maybe not. Maybe there were some things left. There was obviously some olive trees somewhere. Yeah. For the dove to get. And something interesting I heard about the dove and the raven that Noah sent out. And this is, sidebar. Yeah. But it was interesting because the raven didn't come back. And, it's a belief that, ravens, it says ravens will, fly around or eat the flesh of men. And so, I don't know, did it find a dead person? Found dead people and dead things, dead animals or something, and that's why it never came back. Oh, that's interesting. And then your dove came back because it's, I don't know, it's just interesting. Mm-hmm. But, okay.
Is a dove loyal?
A dove is loyal, I guess. Well, it's a clean animal used for sacrifices, so it's interesting why the dove came back. Yeah. But, okay. Verse 20, and he drank of the wine, and he was drunken, and he made himself naked in the midst of his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, beheld the nakedness of his father, and showed to his brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a mantle, and bare it upon the shoulders of each, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were turned back, and the nakedness of their father they did not behold. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew by the relation of a dream what had been done to him by Ham his son, who was inferior in worth, and on the account that he had not begotten a fourth son. So, you going to tell me something? Okay. What's interesting here, is it truly just the nakedness of his father that he saw? Or is it, I don't have a lot of notes written down about this, but the nakedness of his father can refer to his wife. Yeah. It could refer that Ham actually had relations with Noah's wife. Mm-hmm. So
it wasn't necessarily about him being...
No, Noah and his wife could have been drunk at this point and naked. And so he walked in, had relationships with Noah's wife, which wouldn't have been his mom. Ham's mom was Naamah. Mm-hmm. But this would have been the younger wife that Noah took on the ark.
I thought that was Naamah. I thought Naamah was the one he brought on the... No?
Naamah's blood was preserved through Ham on the ark. She died in the flood, or would have died beforehand.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, okay.
There's a younger wife, starts with an A.
Okay.
Oh, what's her name? The younger wife, Noah had a lot of wives.
Yeah.
And so the younger wife was able to come onto the flood.
Okay.
Onto the ark. So is this what Ham, did he have sex with her? And there's, I don't have anything written down, but there's a lot about that. It's just an interesting thought.
Well, and it is interesting because let me read it from the Jubilee's perspective. It says that, Ham saw Noah, his father, naked and went forth and told his brothers about it. And then Shem took a garment, and he and Japheth, and they placed the garment on their shoulders and went backwards and covered the shame of their father. Mm-hmm. And their faces were backwards.
The nakedness of the father and shame of the father can refer to when you say the nakedness of a man is his wife.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
It could be either or.
Yeah. I don't know. And then he, obviously, Noah wakes up and he curses his son.
Yeah. And I think it's in the writings of Abraham that Noah no longer, after this, had relations with his wife. So, after this, he was no longer, didn't want anything to do with his wife. Was it because of him, his own son? Sleeping with his wife?
Seems like that would be, for a father to curse his son. I'm not saying it's not, it's.
If this truly is about nakedness, Noah, put on some clothes.
And why would Noah be, listen, here's the deal. He was on the ark for a long time. They were on the ark, and we talked about that in our previous studies. He had some wine. He was enjoying, he had a good time, okay? He was rejoicing. That's what it actually says, okay? That he rejoiced and drank wine, he and his children, with joy, okay?
Of the first fruits.
Yeah. So this was a celebration, okay? So, would his son seeing him naked cause him such anger to curse him? It just seems kind of like a stretch without maybe understanding that maybe there was something else going on, or maybe the interpretation of nakedness was something else. So what you're saying seems a bit more, what's the word? It seems more apt with like him cursing. It seems like it kind of, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
That he would curse his son, not for seeing him naked, but for seeing his wife naked and doing something about it.
Yeah.
You
get the same idea with Adam and Eve. Eve ate the fruit. But in a lot of other texts, it seems that maybe Eve, might have brought forth a seed. A serpent seed. Yeah, a serpent seed within her, being Cain. So there might have been something more sexual going on rather than just eating fruit. They were kicked out of the Garden of Eden for eating fruit. They went against the commandments of Elohim. I'm not saying that's not what happened. But there's often more things going on behind the scenes than was actually revealed in most of the texts.
Exactly.
To find out really what these things mean, I think we have to put together multiple accounts of the story.
Yeah.
That's why we're reading the Targum right now. So.
You want to keep going?
Yeah. Let's see. Verse 24. And he said, "Accursed is Kenan, who is the fourth son. A serving servant shall he be to his brethren. And he said, Blessed be Yahweh, the Elohim of Shem, whose work is righteous, and therefore shall Kenan be servant unto him. Yahuwah shall beautify the borders of Japheth, and his sons shall be proselyted, and dwell in the schools of Shem, and Kenan shall be a servant to them. And Noah lived after the deluge 350 years, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died." So it's amazing. It actually tells you here in the Targum that the schools of Shem, which you don't get anywhere else. And if you read the writings of Abraham, we know that Shem is Melchizedek, and which is just a title, Melchizedek being a priest and a king. It's a priest king. So we know that this Melchizedek, he didn't just make it up. There was always a priest king. Adam was the first priest king, and so on and so on. It just kept going. Seth being the next, and probably Jared, all these people, Enoch, and it just kept going down the line. The right of the firstborn, also making a priest king. But Shem, he was the Melchizedek. And, when they came back, he established the city of Shalom, the city of Enoch, city of Shalom, where he taught, had these schools. And this is eventually where you learn that Abraham learned from Shem. And, but anyways, it's interesting how Noah lived after the deluge 350 years. We don't have a lot of books to this. There is a book of Noah, probably that's, Noah wrote a lot of books. And some of them I think are hidden kind of in the book of Enoch. If you read how Enoch's written, some of them Noah's actually writing. So I do believe some of the books that Noah wrote are in the book of Enoch that we have today. But anyways, you read the writings of Abraham and the book of the order, and these things he was teaching. He was teaching the covenant. He was teaching the same covenant, the same Torah that all of them had.
Right.
And that all of them forgot. That all the generations of man forgot. Just like you're reading in Jubilees, and eventually it was re-given on Mount Sinai. And we continually forgetting it today. I mean, my grandfathers didn't know the Torah.
Yeah.
They weren't taught the Torah, or if they did, they didn't pass it down to my generation. And that's what we're commanded to do in Deuteronomy 6, to be constantly talking about this. So our generation, we talk about it to the next generation, our kids, and they pass it down to their kids, and it keeps getting passed down.
Right.
Because it's a perpetual covenant.
Yeah.
But anyways, all he's doing is teaching the ordinances of Elohim.
Okay.
The same Melchizedek priesthood that Yeshua reintroduced.
Does this go along with that from Jubilee 7, where it says that this is when Noah's still alive? Well, this is when Noah's still alive before he passes, so I guess not, because this happened after Noah. This happened during Noah, right?
Yeah, the school of Shem, yes.
Okay. So does this go along with that, though, where it says that Noah began to enjoin upon his sons the ordinances and commandments and all the judgments that he knew, and he exhorted his sons to observe righteousness and to cover the shame of their flesh and to bless their Creator and honor father and mother and love their neighbor and guard their souls from fornication and uncleanness and all iniquity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wow, I kind of feel like I just read some of the 10 Commandments there.
Yeah.
Honor your father and mother, love your neighbor, guard yourself from fornication, right?
Yeah, where is this coming from if it hadn't already existed?
This is just fascinating. Oh, man, So it says, for owing to these three things came the flood upon the earth, namely, owing to the fornication wherein the watchers against the Torah of their ordinances went a-whoring after the daughters of men and took themselves women of all of which they chose, and they made the beginning of uncleanness. So anyways, I had read that, and I thought, was that part of what this school of
Sure, I mean,
Shem
he's
was?
just teaching. He's just, teaching it to the next generation. And like I said before, like Abraham was in his school.
Yeah.
And learn from him, and therefore Abraham told, his nephew Lot, he was teaching Lot, he was teaching all of his family, even his own father, who eventually kind of comes back to him. But he's trying to impart the wisdom of Shem, the wisdom of Noah, and all the way back to Adam, the ones that always had the Torah.
Yeah.
And all these Melchizedek priests, and all these things have been forgotten. And, it was reintroduced with Yahushua as our Melchizedek priest.
Right.
But still, it's continually forgotten, the ordinances of Elohim, that the whole reason of the whole instruction for righteousness and godliness.
Right. Weren't you just reading something this morning about the earth being divided?
Yeah, Peleg. Well, I wasn't reading that.
That's right.
I wasn't reading that, but that's weird you brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where...
During the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. That's always interested me.
Yeah, in Jubilees 8, there's so much in Jubilees that we don't even have time to cover right now. But kind of it's like getting a little picture, like getting a reel into the life of Noah and his sons and the things that were going on post-flood,
I was talking about that. I'm sorry. The priestly garments were made for the 4 divisions of the earth.
Okay. Well, this is interesting because Noah divided the earth, between his 3 sons. They divided it.
So you're not talking about Peleg.
No, it is. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It is Peleg.
No,
Peleg divided it. You're right. It says, Peleg, for in the days when he was born, the children of Noah began to divide the earth amongst themselves. For this reason, he called his name Peleg. And they divided it secretly among themselves and told it to Noah.
Yeah, which they did it secretly because this is the ways of Cain.
Right.
The division of earth, the division of property and private property are the ways of Cain.
That's an interesting topic.
Yeah, the earth was never meant to be divided amongst men. And this is why there's so many issues coming up. This is why you look in Acts and you see the beginning of the newly reintroduced ecclesia.
Right.
They had everything in common. They had every single thing in common: property, money, everything. was in common, and they lacked nothing.
Right.
This is the way the city of Shalom, which was the school of Shem, directed its people.
Right.
You know, and you had people slowly leave because they desired private property, like Lot. Lot went and he wanted private property. He had so much cattle. He left Abraham and decided, hey, I'm going to move to Sodom. They got a lot of land there, and they got some, they got good taxes. So I'm going to go over there. They don't have a state tax, and I like what they do over there. They've got a good governor.
So I mean, it all started here, though. That's so fascinating. Like this division of land really started, with the sons of Noah. You know, so there's so much more.
Yeah, the priestly garments, what we were talking about earlier, the priestly garments were not, I don't think, were a division of land, as in private property, but I think it was the 4 divisions of the earth, which I believe are the 4 divisions of the 4 rivers coming out of the North Pole. Yeah.
Oh, I do want to read this.
That's a different subject.
Let's not go down too many.
No.
I want to read something really quickly that because I don't know. Chapter 10, we're done, right? We're done with chapter 9, and chapter 10 it gets into the genealogy of Noah, right? And then 11 does talk about Peleg. Okay. But I think it's just genealogy.
Chapter 10?
10 and 11 are basically that they had one language, one speech. I'm just making sure if I'm saying anything that it's not going to be something I can... No, it's not. Because then chapter 12 gets into Abram. So Jubilees has so much about Noah and his family. Because he's still going. I mean, he's still going. He's still alive. Well, he's still alive and well in chapters 10 and 11 of Jubilees. Yeah. But he talks about medicines in chapter 10 of Jubilees.
Yeah, so there is a book, and I don't know if it mentions it in Jubilees, but there is a book of Noah where he wrote everything about medicines and herbs and how to heal the body that he knew. He wrote this huge book. Man, where is that book? I wish we had that book, because it was all these medicines and herbs to use.
Chained.
Yeah, I'm sure Rome has it in their archives somewhere.
Yeah, it's probably under lock and key.
Yeah, they've hidden so much.
Chapter 10, let me just read this, because this is where unclean devils began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noach, and they began to make error and destroy them. Noah's sons basically come to Noah and say, they told him concerning the devils which were leading them astray and blinding and slaying their sons. And so, I mean, there was a period where, they were pursuing righteousness. And then not too far after that, after
all of a sudden,
y'all
demons
delivered them.
Coming in. Yeah, evil spirits. And by the way, we covered this in Genesis 6, that evil spirits are the spirits of the Nephilim. Yeah. That were allowed to basically afflict man. Yeah.
Inhabit and afflict. So he prays. So let me just read this really quickly. So Noah prayed before Yahuwah Eloheu, and said, Elohim of the Ruacheth of all flesh, who has shown mercy unto me, and has saved me and my sons from the waters of the flood, and has not caused me to perish as you did the sons of perdition. For your grace has been great towards me, and great has been your mercy to my soul. Let your grace be lifted up upon my sons, and let not wicked Ruacheth rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. But do you bless me and my sons, that we may increase and multiply and replenish the earth. And you know how your watchers, the fathers of these Ruacheth, acted in my day.
Well, there's the fathers of the Ruacheth, or the watchers. These are
the angels.
Yeah, so it's telling you right there the evil spirits are the Nephilim, who are the sons of the watchers and human. They're watcher-human hybrid.
Yeah. And as for these Ruacheth which are living, imprison them and hold them fast in the place of condemnation, and let them not bring destruction on the sons of your servant, my Elohim. For they are malignant and created in order to destroy. And let them not rule over the Ruacheth of the living, for you alone can exercise dominion over them. And let them not have power over the sons of the righteous from henceforth and forevermore. And Yahuwah Eloheinu bade us to bind all. And the chief of the Ruacheth, I won't say its name, said, Yahuwah Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them hearken. Hold on, is that saying that that's an actual... And the chief of the Ruacheth?
Yes, that's the chief of the Ruacheth right there.
Of the watchers?
Of the evil spirits.
Yeah, okay.
I think this could be the same as the Beelzebub.
Okay.
Of course in Torah we're not even supposed to mention these names.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying
yeah.
anything. I'm not, because
So
I've
I just
already...
broke Torah by saying Beelzebub. But yeah,
Don't we have enough problems with the enemy and his little
But
demons?
yeah, I mean, these evil spirits, and we're not even supposed to be mentioning them. Of course, we're just reading.
I'm just reading. I'm not having a conversation about it. But because this is the part that I want to get to about the medicines. Let some of them remain before me. Let them hearken to my voice and do all that I shall say unto them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will in the sons of men. For these are for corruption and leading astray before my judgment. For great is the wickedness of the sons of men. And he said, let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation to be chained, right?
Mm-hmm. So 1/10 of them were allowed to stay.
Yes. And one of us, he commanded that we should teach Noah all their medicines. So this is interesting. For he knew that they would not walk in uprightness, nor strive in righteousness. And we did according to all his words. All the malignant evil ones we bound in the place of condemnation, and 1/10 part of them we left, that they might be subject before Satan on the earth. So are these the same demons that we read about in the Wisdom of Solomon?
Absolutely.
That have been left to rule certain specific aspects of this earth? You know?
Absolutely. And they're the same ones that Yahushua was casting out of people. You know, the legion, for we are many, is the same legion. It's mentioned in the Wisdom of Solomon, or Testament of Solomon? Testament of Solomon.
Oh, Testament. I'm sorry, not Wisdom.
The Testament of Solomon.
That wouldn't be in the Wisdom of Solomon.
Yeah, the Testament of Solomon
yeah,
is a whole book where he's casting out demons and actually having them work on the temple. But what's interesting is these demons are teaching. He had one of them teach all the medicines to Noah.
Yeah.
That's the thing about these demons, or these evil spirits and the Watchers. If you read, they taught man evil things and good things.
Yeah.
They were sent by Yah, in some cases, sent by Yah to teach them good things that they could learn. And the workings of metal, all these things that some of them were good and some of them were bad. And that isn't exactly how sin appears. It appears good, but it's actually really evil. And it's hurt humanity. Well, and not been a great thing, you know?
Yeah, and medicine is a great example of that. It's supposed to heal. That's our belief, right? The medicine that these pharmaceutical companies have created is supposed to heal. But how silly of us if we don't even just look at a commercial on TV, if you even have a TV, and you see how many pharmaceutical drugs are promoted and marketed heavily on TV to go fix one problem, but they quickly tell you 15 other symptoms or problems that will come just by taking that one drug that's going to fix this ailment over here.
Yeah.
It's intended for good, right? I mean,
yeah.
I say that lightly, but let me finish reading this, and then, because this is just interesting. It says, we explained to Noah all the medicines of their diseases, together with their seductions, how he might heal them with herbs of the earth. So they were already experiencing afflictions and diseases. I'm assuming this, because why would you say it if it hadn't happened to you already?
Yeah.
So they were.
Didn't we read the other day the first man ever sick was Adam?
When he was on his deathbed, yes, in the Testament of Adam, and he's on his deathbed.
The first time a man had been sick on his deathbed.
Seth. Yes, he's basically bringing Seth to him. He knows that he's about to leave this earth, and he tells Seth that he is sick, or I don't know what the word is. I don't think it was sick that he used. And Seth is like, "What do you mean you're sick? What does that mean?"
Yeah, he had no idea.
So anyways, but he gives them medicines together with their seductions, of their diseases, together with their seductions, how he might heal them with the herbs of the earth. And Noah wrote them down, to your point, wrote down all these things in a sefer as we instructed him concerning every kind of medicine.
Where is this book?
I don't know.
I want this book.
I need this book. I mean, there are books out there. I mean, there are, biblical medicine, is available, and you can look around and you can gather so many herbs and use them to, we do it, we have been able to, the last couple of years, our eyes have been open to, breaking the bonds of, traditional modern day medicine and coming to the realization of, Yah created herbs, that help us in our ailments and things that we're afflicted with. And we use those things. We use elderberries and yarrow and, anything that's grown in nature can be used. It doesn't mean that they all should be used, but they can be used to help us.
It's interesting that it says with their seductions.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
I don't know.
I don't want to say incantation, but that, what is a seduction?
Something.
With their uses, maybe? Is that what it's saying? I'm curious. I don't know.
Well, but the evil Ruach were precluded from hurting the sons of Noah, and he gave all that he had written to Shem, his eldest son. So he gave this book of medicines to Shem. Everything that he had written down, he gave it to Shem, for he loved him exceedingly above all his sons. And that is, and then he slept with his fathers and was buried on Mount Lubar in the land of Ararat.
Something else. This just popped in my head. Something else too. This is off subject, but it's what we read. When Ham did see the nakedness of his father, he stole the robes from him, and these were the same robes given to Adam.
Where is that at? Where do you read that at? The robes that were taken.
There's a few places. I don't.
Anyways, keep going.
Want to quote the writings of Abraham again, but it's in there. But it's also in the Jasher.
Okay.
I'm
just curious for anybody that wanted to look it up.
Well, these same robes, and these robes were, we read about the robes that Yahuwah made for Adam when he realized his nakedness. It was the skin of the serpent. Mm-hmm. This skin was taken from the serpent, and he made these robes, these snake skins to wear, which is really strange. But this same robes, they had power to them, and Noah had them, and they were just passed down through the generations. So it's not okay to eat
a snake, but it's okay to wear a snake. Like snakeskin boots?
I guess so, and that's been a question within Torah. Is it okay to have an unclean animal skin upon your body? Like,
I don't know. That you just brought that up, and I don't want to go down that rabbit trail.
What about Yochanan the Immerser, John the Baptist?
Oh, yeah, he wore camel's hair, right?
He wore camel's hair. Is camel a clean food? I don't know if they really have I think they do. I think they have split hose and chew the cud.
Yeah.
So they're clean, so camel. Maybe that wouldn't work. But I mean, can you wear, can I wear my bearskin jacket? I don't have a bearskin jacket. That would be really cool if I had a bearskin jacket. But can you wear that? I mean, I would say so. But
what you just said was that he was given a coat of snakeskin.
A snakeskin. Ham stole it from Noah at the moment when he saw him naked. Maybe his wife too. Stole these garments of power, and eventually it makes it into the hands of Nimrod, which gives Nimrod the ability and the power. Are these garments still around? I don't know. I think it's very interesting that if these garments are around, will they be discovered one day? Are they discovered? Does someone have them somewhere?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of snake symbology within the Roman church. So that's very interesting to me as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Man, what an interesting chapter. Yeah.
We went over an hour.
But it was worth it. I mean, maybe not to anybody else that's going to listen. But
it was worth it to us.
It was worth it to us. I mean, these are just our studies. These are our Bible studies, totally unscripted. So, it is what it is. But it's just like, there's so much revelation and so many things that you get when you just kind of read it for what it is without studying it ahead of time. And I think that's the beauty of what we're doing, why we enjoy it so much. Is because we're reading it, not for the first time, but we're rereading it, from the Targum, with my scriptures, with your KJV, with, some books from the Sefer, some of the hidden texts. And man, it just comes together and you're just like, well, what about this? Yeah. And it just leads you down these different trails. And the excitement, is just, can't be contained, for learning some of these things. And really, man, I didn't know so much of this stuff about Noah and his sons. It's so lost, in the church today. It's so lost in the teachings to our children, Our children need to be learning this.
Yeah, the Bere'shith in the canon is really just the cliff notes of everything there is to be learned.
That.
Yeah.
I mean, the next two chapters are nothing but the genealogy, which is not bad. But that's where the Torah gets such a bad rap. Numbers and so many of these books that just have genealogy. There is way more than just genealogy in the Torah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, but yeah.
Truly, like you said, we've read this before, and but we just keep coming back to the Torah. This is what Paul said was scripture, the Torah and the prophets. And just like Psalms says, Psalms 1, our delight is in the Torah of Yahuwah, and on his words we meditate day and night. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, I know about you, but I don't know about you who are listening, but I truly want to be a tree planted by rivers of water who brings forth his fruit in due season, because my delight is in the Torah of Yahweh. And I know you and I want to meditate, and we do meditate on
And
day
we're
and
waiting
night.
we're waiting for our fruit. Not waiting for it like we deserve it.
Waiting
but
for
we're
our
praying
season,
for
yeah.
our season and for
Yeah.
our for Yah to bless us.
Our fruit in due season, yeah.
I mean, He has blessed us, but
Yeah.
Anyways, it's been. We almost didn't do this today, and I am so thankful to Yah that the Ruach led us to do it.
Yeah. So I hope your Sabbath brings much shalom.
Yes.
So
Shabbat shalom, guys.
Shabbat shalom.